Since I made my first s3vrige video, I realized I may have been a little bit off about my judgment on him, and now that I've seen more of his content and found out more about him, I want to say that he's definitely a cult leader and he's narcissistic and he's a sociopath. Disclaimer, there's some adult content and language, and here it is.
Like, it's hard. Maybe I'll do too much. It's really hard.
Just leave a little, that's all. How's the taste?
Super nice. There, nigga. Okay, so there was like nothing. So, like, because it was only till here, so. That's it. It's like a little tiny piece. Thank you, man. Tak. It's like having sex with you, just better. I have you in me. Luna is tasting it.
It does taste like Ludwig, weirdly enough, right?
Yeah?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, man.
Interesting.
Oh, fuck me. Oh, man. I would like more of this. Fuck. Oh, so good. Oh, I get it. The epiphany of my life. I get everything now. This is why they do it. Imagine like baby blood. Fuck. Yeah, fuck, man.
That was human blood. That was a vial of the blood of one of his followers, and the video is titled something about him drinking virgin blood, and that's probably why he's like, oh, could you imagine baby's blood? Like, seriously? And I'm getting criticized because I think that, like, if that's not a cult leader, what is? I don't know what is. He has this mentality where it's his way or the highway and he knows everything, and if you dissent from any of his opinions and you're out of his group and he boosts you so fast and you're ostracized badly. And his followers have, some of his followers, some of them have the same mentality that a cult follower would, where if you dissent from their leader's opinion, you are boosted out of the group because how dare you? But at the same time, he says so much crazy that like nobody could agree with everything he says. There's so many people that are like, oh, I'll agree to disagree with him about the earth being flat, but how dare you, woman, on your teeny tiny YouTube channel say that he's narcissistic or sociopathic? And I get it. Like, I'm opening myself up to criticism just as he is, putting myself in my commentary, my opinion, and even my advice sometimes on a public platform. But I just think that it can be detrimental to some people's health, especially those people who are conceiving or carrying a child or have a small child in their care, when they take advice of some extreme influencers. And that's not to say that they can't help people. And I think you have to be somebody with a college degree in order to be an expert and knowledgeable on a subject. However, I just think that this whole thing is very interesting, and so I follow it and I speculate about it. And there's a lot of other carnivores. They are well-meaning people, and I sincerely hope they get better, but I could have found more examples that were people who are unhealthy and done a whole carnivore malnourished series. Like, that was where I got the title from, but I really do feel like anybody who's well-rounded and healthy doesn't act like this, and he is very malnourished. He had to have gotten depleted of many things, and he's still depleted in some ways, in my layperson opinion. And I think that it is pretty much impossible not to be, because he almost starved himself to death. He'll make videos making fun of breatharians, which is a funny topic to make fun of, but he doesn't touch upon how it was his own stepping stone on his own journey to optimal health, staring at the sun and almost killing himself because he thought all he needed was to stare at the sun for sustenance, and now he's making fun of people who are breatharians. And also, in his most recent video, he had a longtime follower he was interviewing, and this follower, bless this man, he has a chronic gaping wound in his leg. I'm sure that's a horrible situation to be in. I'm not trying to knock him down a peg, but this is what happened. He's like telling him how he has to go to the hospital daily and have them pack his wound and clean it, and then once a week they like cauterize or like cut around it, like actually use a scalpel. And what a horrible situation to be in. I'm sorry about that. So s3vrige sits there and says that it's a satanic torture chamber, and it's like all the hospital's fault, that if they just let him heal and let his bacteria do what it's meant to do, that he wouldn't be in this situation. This man isn't being held hostage there. It's not like court-ordered treatment. In my understanding, he is like coming and going, and he's consenting to it because he knows they're at least saving his limb, maybe even his life. And there's a lot of other proof that, you know, maybe the carnivore diet isn't ideal for everybody. There's always going to be different ecologies and different things that lend to why one thing may work for somebody and not the other person who tries it. And the biggest claim to fame that he seems to have is his physique and his muscles. And yes, he has made a physical transformation since he has started the carnivore diet. However, correlation does not equal causation. And I don't believe 100% anybody with anything. I don't believe necessarily that he doesn't take steroids. I don't. And he doesn't disclose any of his workout information with the exception of to his Patreons. And once again, he has a horrible, nasty attitude. If somebody's in a live stream, they ask him about his workout routine, he'll be like, F off, you retard, join my Patreon. And I think that's a ridiculous way to be.
You call yourself a truther, but at the same time live a typical sheeple life watching Hollywood movies. You've been programmed like everybody else. The point is to get you into the mindset that killing, stealing, etc. is wrong, even though that's what the enlightened ones do because it's natural and they worship nature. That's the only way to be happy. They have built a perfect system for themselves where they can have human hunting parties, rape and torture dungeons, babies for breakfast, an unlimited supply of blood, which we donate to them without realizing it, and of course organ donations.
Here we go again with the eating babies rhetoric. Like, seriously, he contradicts himself too with the satanic stuff because he'll be like, they're just playing on the playground of life, the Illuminati. I want to join the Illuminati, and they know what they're doing. They know about human energy. They do what everybody wants to do. They just haven't been programmed like everybody else who are slaves. They're, you know, ooh, people call them Satanists, but then, you know, he'll turn around and be like, the doctors are satanic. They're satanic torture chambers. It's like, but isn't that what you like? Isn't that the playground of life? Isn't that what, like, we're all meant to be doing according to you and your back-asswards philosophies? Another thing I touched upon beyond, like, the psychology of this all is the actual practices he promotes aren't healthy. When he was eating raw liver, him and other raw carnivore enthusiasts will admit there is some risk, and usually it is during the processing. There is a risk of cross-contamination, and none of these guys hunt. I just think it's interesting. You don't see these people hunting and fishing and processing their own meat. And he, in one of the segments I put in my video, went from eating liver in a package to sticking his fingers in the butter that he had just touched the raw meat with. And that doesn't mean I don't think that raw butter is okay. It is a living superfood full of bacteria. And when you're introducing something like raw meat juice to it, like, who knows what is happening in that petri dish of bacteria now. And it's not healthy to be like, oh, bacteria is good, bacteria is good, bacteria is good. He himself had to get antibiotics and had to have surgeries when he was down and out. And I just think that he is definitely still very deficient in certain things. Because once again, people who feel well don't lash out at others. And besides the obvious risks of eating food that's undercooked or raw, he eats things that people just shouldn't be eating raw, such as pork, especially. And because of one of his fervent followers commenting on the video I made of him, I did more research into prion diseases, which is really a protein. It's like a protein that's impossible to kill. And once it gets into your body, it creates some kind of reaction. And that's what the prion disease is. And this is proof, I said in my video, barely anybody practices cannibalism. And there's a reason for that. It was called, Kuru disease. And it's prion disease. There's actually been proof as recently as about 10 years ago that we may be able to get this same disease from eating undercooked cow's meat that has mad cow's disease in it. And that doesn't even just mean the brain, it's like any part of the meat. So this is serious. That's like one thing that people, even like me, like I'll eat steak that's rare, and I think that that's something we need to be aware of. People will say we shouldn't be wary of it in our country, in America, because it has not been identified in America, just over in Europe. But still, like it's always a possibility. And it's very scary to think about. People will, they'll stand up for whatever they believe in using whatever excuses they want to, and that's completely fine. It's fine to do whatever you want, put whatever you want to in your body. I don't care. If you're a grown adult, do whatever you want. In conclusion, he does lack empathy. He seems very antisocial. He seems like a sociopath. He seems narcissistic. He's an exhibitionist that wants to sit around places eating big hunking pieces of raw flesh in order to somehow change opinions of others, which he's never going to do, and he knows it. There's never going to be a vegan that walks by him and is like, hey, look at that guy eating raw meat. I'm going to go home and eat some raw meat today. That's just not happening. He's doing it for his followers. He's doing it for his own ego. He's not a true advocate. And people are like, ooh, come to Ireland and we need you here. For what? Like, for what? For your own satisfaction too? It's just another example of why you shouldn't put anybody up on a pedestal. You shouldn't idolize anybody. You do whatever you want with your money and your time, but there are reasons why everybody should take a step back and evaluate their own circumstances, as well as those of the people they're getting major life advice from, if that's what they choose to do. So I want to also add that I do believe that bacteria can be beneficial. I know I just mentioned it's dangerous to tout bacteria is not dangerous, but it's just taking it to the extreme, okay? In my first video, I didn't touch upon these alleged rumors that he may have been somebody who stabbed 3 of his classmates when he was a minor in Latvia. I didn't say anything about that because I don't believe that things that people did when they were minors should be showcased as part of their character. We are all literally going crazy with our hormones, and your brain's still forming, and it's just, there's some crazy background and possible background to this person. Like, he already formed quite a following on a game called RuneScape in the early 2000s when he was still a teenager, and the only proof of maybe he stabbed his classmates is this old article that says this kid who was heavily into playing video games lashed out, and one of his teachers is quoted as saying he was kind of delusional or lived in a dream world because of the games he played all the time. So I didn't touch upon that. And then the way people came at me, I just think it's interesting. Like, there's so many people out there spreading possible fallacies about him, and please let me know if he has addressed that rumor, because as far as I'm concerned, he has not addressed it. And then, there's other stuff like that, and he came after Frank Turfano, which he's a fellow raw carnivore enthusiast, influencer, YouTuber, and he tried to expose him somehow by putting out these clips of him being extras in like gay movies, and they were silly, and Frank has disclosed that he acts, but still s3vrige made it into like this dramatic situation I felt like was like high school, and that is what prompted me to look into his content and make that video. I was like, wow, the pot calling the kettle black, like you have quite a history too. And whether or not he was a part of any school incident, like that's all alleged, but he definitely has some nerve, and I think he lashes out at Frank Turfano, because even though Frank has his faults and doesn't treat people well all the time either, I know from experience he still does do a better job at giving actual information and backing up what he says and the advice he gives with scientific data, and he's more convincing and more entertaining to watch, in my opinion. So people like s3vrige and Freely that have people who support them and put them up on a pedestal, I think it's interesting to watch. I'm a people watcher, and in my advice, like, I wouldn't idolize anybody like that, but I just wanted to analyze him a little bit. And when you look at the comment section and the like to dislike ratio and the way people talk in that video, it is even more apparent of like the following somebody like him can attract. And that doesn't mean everybody that follows him. They have even deleted some of their own comments. Like they've censored themselves. They can be so vulgar and mean, and I don't stoop to that level. So when I don't do that and I respond nicely and respect them, it's almost like some of these people haven't been respected by somebody for a long time, and they respond kindly, and quite a few of them even deleted their own vulgar comments. So I always believe there's time to change and room to grow as long as you're alive and your heart is beating, your cells are dying and regenerating, and you have the possibility to change. And I really do sincerely hope that some constructive criticism will help s3vrige change. He's got what seems to be like a decent woman on his side, even though I really don't like how she is like participating in that blood drinking, like condoning him, saying, "Could you imagine the baby's blood?" Like, I don't like that at all, but I don't have anything really bad to say about her, and I really do wish them all the best. So that's all I have to say about it for now.
Imagine like baby blood.
Nope, not gonna do it. And I won't. I don't have to. I don't feel like it. I'm not going to, because I'm not deficient. I don't have pica or some deficiency. Those who don't lack empathy for other humans just wouldn't even want to try this, even if they did believe in life force and something like that being beneficial from the blood. Plus, it does age like very quickly. I wonder if this person sent it to him in the mail or what, because you can't even perform certain blood work after a few hours of blood sitting in a vial. I just think that's really interesting to know. Once again, he's not doing it like they do in the wild. He's not going out there and hunting. He's not like biting somebody's neck. Okay, I really need to wrap this up now. I am done. Thank you for listening.